When I was growing up, I collected stamps, but then I didn't grow up as part of the super rich with unlimited amounts of money and the ability to buy anything I wanted. The super rich don't have normal hobbies, they have hobbies that are now considered rich hobbies. We're talking hobbies such as Ferrari collecting, where the average cost of a single Ferrari is $500,000, or flying, where the private pilot license cost is $75,000. And this, well, it's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of costs for this hobby. Welcome to Lives of the Super Rich, where we delve into the extravagant and opulent world of the ultra-wealthy. These individuals live in a world far removed from our own, where desires are fulfilled with a flick of the wrist, and possessions are limited only by imagination. Join us as we explore their lavish lifestyles, from private jets and mega mansions to exclusive events and extravagant purchases. Money is no object for these titans, and we're here to bring you a glimpse into their extraordinary lives. If you're fascinated by the world of the super rich, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more exclusive content. First up, horses. Horses have been owned by the rich for thousands of years. In the past, horses were vital to move around. Today, they're typically used for three things: riding, racing, and playing polo. If you're rich and want a horse, you're going to want the best. According to the Jockey Club in the USA, the average cost for a racehorse in 2021 was $95,000. And that's before you factor in the price of food, grooming, and housing, which can easily add another $50,000 a year to your bill. What determines how expensive a horse is comes down to factors such as its breed, its age, its performance level, and potential capability. As an example, Frankel was one of the best champion British thoroughbred racehorses and was unbeaten in his 14-race career. From May 2011 until his retirement, he was considered the highest-rated racehorse in the world. Today, he is retired, but is a standing stud at Banstead Manor Stud in Cambridgeshire. In 2013, his stud fee was set at £125,000. However, this has raised to £175,000 today. If you wanted to buy one of Frankel's offsprings, they are for sale, but current prices at auction are around £1.15 million. Horses are not just used for racing though, they are also used for playing games, with one such game being polo, also known as the sport of kings. The idea is that two opposing teams of players on horseback have the objective of scoring using a long-handed wooden mallet to hit a small hard ball through the opposing team's goal. Polo is one of the most expensive sports to play, not only because the horses cost a fortune to buy and look after, but because each player needs 6 to 8 horses for each game. 20 years ago, each polo player used to get 1 horse per game. It was part of the skill to judge when to run your pony and when to give it a breather. Today, polo players are taking 10 horses to a game and rotating them throughout the match to be competitive. With a good polo horse costing $30,000 and another $25,000 per year to run, you can see why polo is reserved for the super rich. If you think riding horses is just too much stress, how about collecting art? Art has topped the list as the ultimate hobby of the super rich for the last 30 years. The super rich buy art because they want to show off something that is both expensive and exclusive. If you want to be taken seriously as an art collector, you'll need to be a serious member of the super rich. A cheap Pablo Picasso painting that costs around $150,000, while the most expensive artworks, those cost millions. One of the most expensive paintings to be sold recently was The Card Players by Paul Cézanne. The Card Players is a series of oil paintings by the French post-impressionist artist Paul Cézanne. Painted during Cézanne's final period in the early 1890s, there are 5 paintings in the series. The majority of these paintings are housed in world-renowned museum collections, such as the Musée d'Orsay in Paris and the Courtauld Institute of Art in London. However, there are 2 paintings that remain in private collections. One is with an anonymous collector, and the second was privately sold in 2011 at a breathtaking price of over $250 million. At the time, it was the most expensive painting ever sold. Next up, flying. While flying is not exclusively reserved for the super rich, it's not a cheap sport either. Yes, you can buy a 40-year-old plane for less than $50,000, but if flying is your passion, you'll want a few planes. First up, you need to take your pilot's license, which will cost you around $50,000 by the time you've factored in the cost of renting planes. But ultimately, this is just the beginning. If you want to fly yourself, you'll want the largest single pilot-operated jet, which is the Embraer EMB 505 Phenom 300. This is a light business jet developed by the Brazilian aerospace manufacturer, Embraer. It can carry you and 8 of your friends up to 3,650 kilometers, but it's going to cost around $9 million to buy, and by the time you've factored in a hangar to store your plane, insurance, servicing, and airplane fuel, add another $1 million to run it. If you want something slightly bigger, there is the Gulfstream G700 private jet. It's a much larger jet, and it will hold 19 passengers, but then it'll require you to fly with a co-pilot at all times. The G550 is a heavy, long-range business jet that replaced the Gulfstream 650, and it has improved aerodynamics, leading to an increased range and fuel efficiency. The price for this hobby? A new plane will set you back around $60 million, depending on the configuration. As with all things super rich, it doesn't stop there. Your plane will set you back another $2.5 million per year by the time you've factored in flight crew, fuel, maintenance costs, and a hangar to keep your plane. If you want to keep your feet firmly on the ground though, maybe car collecting could be for you. We're not talking about buying a new Mercedes or a Porsche, no, we're talking about the world of vintage to super rare one-off car collecting, where cars costing tens of millions of dollars is the norm. Nothing says you're part of the super rich more than a 1963 Ferrari 250 GTO. Only 36 of these special Ferraris were ever made between 1962 and 1963. They were designed and built to win the 1960s Tour de France automobile and the Le Mans race. However, over the last 70 years, they've become seriously desirable. It was fun to drive given it used a 5-speed manual gearbox, and with a top speed of 174 miles per hour, which may not seem that fast today, in 1960, it was the fastest in the world. All this means is that current owners are increasingly reluctant to sell their cars. However, if you can find one, and if you can persuade the owner to sell, you're going to be looking at a serious price tag of around $100 million. The 250 GTO is a pretty serious car, reserved for the super rich. If you're not into cars but you still want a hobby collecting something, then how about a Hermes handbag? Ladies have been collecting handbags for the last 100 years as a means of self-expression, to display their wealth, or as a status symbol accessory in showcasing their exuding individuality. While you can pop into your local designer shop for a new handbag and spend a few $100s, it is also possible to spend much more on the limited and unique items that designers are producing these days in limited numbers. These are handbags that only the super rich can afford. In the last few years, a few of these handbags have come up for sale. The most expensive of all was the Muad 1001 Nights Diamond Purse, which is officially the most expensive handbag in the whole world. The bag is handcrafted 18-karat gold. It's a heart-shaped handbag created by artisans who dedicated 8,800 hours with a labor of love. It comes adorned with a total of 4,517 diamonds, comprised of 105 yellow diamonds, 56 pink diamonds, and 4,356 colorless diamonds. And the price of the Muad 1001 Nights Diamonds purse, $3.8 million. The final are two things that you could do with your partner. Rumor has it that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie fell in love making this their vineyard in France. It generally starts with collecting wine, which, while not exclusive to the super rich, does help if you have lots of money to buy and store your wine. Remember, it's only half the job to make a great bottle. You then need to let it mature and age over time. It's unlikely to age correctly sat in your kitchen at home. You need a temperature-controlled warehouse that provides a constant 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit temperature with 60 to 70% humidity and ideally clean air and no light. If you leave a bottle of wine in these conditions for 30 or 40 years, you'll have a great bottle of wine to drink. As a result, matured wine is often very expensive and exclusively drunk by the rich. An example, Petrus. The wine estate is located on the Pomerol region of France, near to its eastern border. It's a small estate of just 28 acres, but it produces around 3,000 bottles per year of some of the best red wine entirely from Merlot grapes. While a 1945 bottle of Petrus, that'll set you back $20,000. That's if you can find one. A 1995 bottle, that's around $5,000. What's better than collecting expensive bottles of wine? How about growing your own? If wine is your passion, there can be no better hobby than buying your own vineyard and making your own wine. In principle, making wine is an easy process. You grow grapes on vines, pick and crush those grapes, and place the grapes in vats to ferment before bottling and then laying them up for a few years to mature. In reality, that process is a little more difficult. Vineyards, they're not cheap to buy. Realistically, you're going to need at least 20 acres, which will produce around 3,000 cases by the time you've factored in growing problems and wastage. In Europe, in the northern Var region of France, this will cost you around 10 million euros. However, if you want to be nearer to the coast and the glamour of the Côte d'Azur, you can easily double that. Remember, this is just for the cost of the land. Once you've bought the land, next you have the cost of the farming and maintenance of a vineyard. Realistically, this is going to be around $65,000 per acre per year or $1.3 million per year for your vineyard. And worst of all, there is no guarantee you'll grow anything. A cold winter or a very hot summer could mean that nothing grows, and all that effort is wasted. What was your favorite? If you were part of the super rich, which hobby would you take up? If you've enjoyed our thoughts on the top 8 hobbies reserved solely for the super rich, make sure you like and subscribe.